Jamie Rissman is an author, a yogi, and has a beautiful message about remaining powerful while you're pregnant. In today's episode, we're going to talk about her journey to yoga, some of the different asana practices she's found from Bikram to vinyasa and also the competition yoga. Touch a little bit on Ghosh yoga, which is an 84 pose, pretty intense yoga practice. But really ending up with her passion right now, which is embodiment practices to young teens and teaching them yoga through embodiment, which I feel is a huge, huge benefit right now and a huge need for a lot of our young ones. It's a beautiful conversation. I hope you get something out of it. We'll see you on the other side. But first, a message from our sponsor. Our healing journey can be difficult and might feel lonely at times. That's why I love sound baths. Where we can get together in a community, we intrinsically support and feel supported by others. And that combined energy can help us go deeper into our own healing journeys. And all you have to do is just lay there for 1 hour and listen to beautiful healing sounds. I'm a sound healing practitioner, and I hold sound baths on a regular basis in the greater Seattle area. You can find my next sound baths on my website at adamrealhealing.com. That's Adam, A-D-A-M, Real, R-I-E-H-L, Healing, Healing.com. AdamRealHealing.com. Your healing is worth your time. All right, welcome back. Today I'm talking with Jamie Rissman. Jamie was introduced to me actually through a friend, one of my good friends. This is her cousin, and when Andre was telling me about this young lady, I'm like, Jesus Christ, why do I not know this person? She sounds like just like she could be my best friend. She does yoga. She loves to write. She is on podcasts. I'm like, oh my God, we're like kismet, we're kindred spirits here. So Jamie Rissman is heavy into yoga. Love the different type of asana practices that you encompass. But also one of the things that I love, and every time I meet somebody in competition yoga, I'm like, I just got to pick your brain. That's just such an interesting concept for me. So
Uh-huh.
Jamie's spent a bit of her time in competition yoga, has authored a beautiful book called Beautiful Pregnancy, and has been on a few podcasts with the beautiful message of pregnant, not powerless. And that is goddamn a beautiful, beautiful message and a beautiful dharma to set yourself behind. So, Jamie, thank you so much for taking time and spending some time with me today. I'm really, really excited to talk with you.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. That was lovely. Nice
Yeah.
to hear it all about myself and
All
say
right.
that, yes, I did that. I did that
It's like, oh, that's right. I did do that thing. I forgot about that. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
so just jump right in. Like, how did yoga get into your state of being? Because you're in Chicago now, but you were from Louisiana, correct?
That's right. Yes. So born in New Orleans and did a ton of gymnastics.
Mm.
After gymnastics was wrapping up my junior, senior year of high school, I knew that the left knee was like on its on its last leg.
Hmm.
So I knew that my last floor competition crawling off after I saluted the judges to get my score was going to be it. And that was
Wow.
it. And so I quit gymnastics and needed something else to fill it. And so after several years, I started doing running, some triathlons and biking and running. And I loved it. I loved it. And on the way to one of my races, I got into a minor fender bender car accident,
Mm.
but it was just the icing on the cake that put the knee into a shattered
Uh,
position where I had to go get surgery. Then, after the surgery was over, which should have been a simple one, I did a simple cartwheel, which
uh,
I could do in my sleep and blindfolded and maybe even with one hand behind. It's just something I thought I could do second nature,
mhm.
and I blew out my quadricep tendon. So I
Oh,
had a whole nother surgery
oh,
plus a cast. And in New Orleans summer, it's so hot and humid, and the cast went from my hip all the way to my left to
oof.
my ankle, and I couldn't bend it or put any weight on it. And there was some kind of fleece hot stuff in there
Yep.
that had to like poke down there and scratch it when you needed to and let it breathe. And it was terrible. Anyway, so I rehabilitated as much as I could the left leg after both surgeries, and then Hurricane Katrina came,
Oh,
and
Jesus.
everything was kind of wiped out.
Yeah.
And I said, all right, it's been 12 days. We've done absolutely the same thing over and over, which was mostly praying and just trying to dry stuff out.
Mm.
And I was like, this is it. I can't anymore. So I decided that I was going to move, and it was either going to be California or Chicago, which I know is totally crazy because it's completely different climates and
Yeah.
just anyway. So I chose Chicago, and as soon as I got there, a friend at the time, now husband, was like, you should come and check out this sweaty ass hot yoga class. And so I went and checked it out. And 10 years prior, I had done it once, but
Okay.
I didn't know. And I wasn't in any mind frame to do yoga because I wasn't taking care of my body then
Yeah.
or my mind. And so 10 years fast forward, I go to this class and it was like, I knew right away, just like most yogis know, that there is for sure that gateway of physical
Mm.
relief or minor band-aid for a moment where you think you can get a little bit more band-aid treatment, but behind all the seams and behind all the fine lines was the mental aspect, because I had just come out of a disaster, left
Mm.
my family, started over, got a new job. I did it all again. And so, just having to like rename yourself and brand yourself and do it all again. And then it's a whole different life experience.
Yeah.
So anyways, I found this yoga class, and the teacher at the time, the owner, he said, "You're going to be a teacher. I just know it." And I said, "No, not me. That would never be me. I'm just not cut out for it."
Uh-huh.
And then within 3 months, I was putting down my tuition for Bikram yoga teacher training in Acapulco, Mexico, which was
Uh-huh.
9 weeks. So I told my corporate job, I got to go. I got something to do. I got to leave. And I may be back. And so I went to my teacher training, came back, started teaching right away, told the corporate job, this isn't working out. I don't like this gig.
Yeah.
And so we disconnected, and I just started teaching full-time yoga. And then after yoga, started more and more certificates, because teacher training is so cool. It's just a
Yes.
nerdy, geeky thing to do, and
Uh-huh.
it's fun. Yeah.
I know. I love nerding out on teacher training. I have so many people tell me after they get out of a 200 hour, they're like, I loved my teacher training, have no complaints, but I don't feel prepared to go into a class and
Yeah.
teach. And I'm like, that's
True.
that's totally normal. Think about your
Yeah.
think about your 200 hours like your associates, right? It's
Yeah.
like your prereqs, right? You get all that shit out of
Yeah.
the way that you got to learn in whatever
Yeah.
capacity. Some people are more asana focused, some people are more philosophy focused, but
Yeah.
you'll get good balance of something. But from there, that 500 hour is you to build your own personal journey. Like, do you want to
Certainly.
be philosophy heavy, anatomy heavy, asana heavy, meditation heavy? Like, where do you want to go with this? Because
Where do you want to start? Because it
yeah,
shifts
it's like,
too,
oh my,
and it
every
moves
time.
in evolution. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can say
Mm-hmm.
like when I first started teaching, I think a lot of us are really drawn to the movement base, right? The very asana base, so power vinyasa of
Yeah.
some sort.
Yeah.
But in my older years, I've moved more from the creative asana practice more towards the meditative practices. And
Sure.
yes, I still
Yeah.
love teaching a good creative flow class. I love teaching a hatha, what we call hatha, which would be the shortened
Yep.
Bikram style class.
Yep.
Yeah, and love all the major styles, but give me a peaceful, let's get into our bodies, let's get into our
Mm-hmm.
heads, into a meditative
Mm-hmm.
practice. And I just, man,
Yeah.
love those now.
Yeah.
And it just, I love
Geek
it.
out on that.
And it'll probably shift again when I'm at 60. When I'm 60, I'm just going to be like,
So
hey, get back
probably
into,
so.
there you go. Get back into that.
Probably.
I love how your camera follows you.
Oh, I'll tell you about my robot. My
Yeah,
husband
you're
gave
best.
me that.
I love those things. Those are the best.
He's my geeky nerd, and anytime there's any new technology, he's like, "You should try it." And I
Yeah.
was like, "No, my people are good. I'm good. Everybody likes it. No, you should try it." And then he gets it, and then they're like, "Whoa, what is that?
Right.
Go over there. Let me see your room." And I'm like, "No, we're working out. You don't need to see my room right
Uh-huh.
now." Like that. It's pretty funny, but it's a conversation builder, a community builder, and people want to know about the robot, and so we engage more, and our rapport is bigger and stronger than ever. All
Exactly.
because of this little robot.
I know.
Oh, and the virtual world,
Uh-huh.
Oh my goodness.
So
Yeah.
with your asanas, so you started off with Bikram, right?
Yes.
And so that's
And that was really my first.
yeah,
My
that's
first
the
for a
full
long time.
90-minute, 26 and 2, that
Yeah.
very structured practice. Yeah.
Yep,
How long did you kind of stick with that style, that modality?
Okay, so for 2008, all the way probably until maybe 2018,
Okay.
I did simply Bikram,
Hmm.
and also had babies. So I got pregnant with twins with multiples in 2009.
Yeah.
And so just a year basically of teaching, well, that's a whole nother conversation. So I was practicing advanced yoga.
Hmm.
So I took Bikram yoga, the 90 minutes. And then in addition to that, I also chose on a Wednesday and a Sunday to add an additional advanced practice, which is more or less legs behind the head or back bends,
Okay.
or just like when my body was available and I didn't know really any better other than it felt like pretzels and a little bit gymnastics like,
Uh-huh.
and I could access my past with flexibility. And although I was rebuilding blocks, because in gymnastics it's very different than in yoga.
Hmm.
In gymnastics split, it's very much one hip behind the other, and in a yoga split, it's very much lateral, side
Right.
to side.
Yep.
And so it was like undoing what my brain wanted to automatically go to automatic pilot as a gymnast in training so many hours every day of the week, to undoing that and not and like taking the junk out of one ear and opening up the other ear and letting the other yoga stuff, the new information, come in.
Yeah.
So pregnant with twins and had my babies, practicing Bikram the whole time, re-entered the 26 into 90-minute after my twins were born, wrote the book, Beautiful Pregnancy, right during the second and third trimester of my multiples. And then somewhere around 2012, got pregnant again. So started the pregnancy sequence again. And then after that baby was born, we moved from DC location to back to Chicago area, which is where I moved right after Katrina. And then within like a year or two after being not even like a year and a half, I relocated to DC. And DC is when I said, all right, I'm going to sign up for this Acapulco teacher training. I'm going to go for it. All I have is boyfriend, no offense, and a dog. So no kids, no husband, no job, like that I need to like really, really worry about. And so I went for it. And that, as a teacher, you can maybe understand the financial commitment for sure, but the like, is this for me? Am I sure? Do I want to make this investment? Yes, I can do it and never teach, but I want to teach. Okay. I mean, I must have gone back and forth a bajillion times thinking, do I want to go? Is it necessary? Can I do it here? Do I need to go that long? All these things that cross your mind. And within like 4 or 5 days, I was like, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love all of it. I don't love the man, but I love the training.
Right. And I think that's a great point. A lot of, and I never had any direct experience with Bikram himself. Know the practice very well, and know some people that have gone to his trainings and have been affected by him personally, unfortunately.
Oh yeah.
But and the conversation always comes up is like, can we still find benefit from the training that was done? And my answer is, of course, yes, most definitely. There's so many good things that come from really unpure places, but that doesn't mean that you can't find something very beautiful from the training that you got. Right. Granted, yes, some people were very, very hurt by this person and by the mentality that he holds. But even a lot of those people that I've talked to that were personally, physically, hurt by this gentleman can still find benefit in the understanding of the practice of yoga that was taught to them and the experiences around that. So, and I really,
agree.
I really hope that and that's one of those things that we as a human have to, not have to, but that's our choice to find that truth for ourselves. Right.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It doesn't have to be somebody else's truth, and your truth can just make sense to you, and that's fine.
That's right.
And so, I really want to make sure that, that message gets out there. Like, I'm not dogging the style of yoga. The gentleman that taught it might be questionable. I don't know the hard facts, just what I've heard and what I've read, but the practice itself, I love the Bikram style practice, the 90 or the 60-minute. I love the functionality of it. I love the ritualness of it. I love teaching it because I don't have to think as much. I don't have to draw on all these interesting transitions I want to do and all this interesting cueing and all this stuff. It's like, nope, okay, here you go. Here's your 3 sets of chair.
Simple.
Here's your half moon series. Here's your day. Like, it's all right there for you. Just going to dictate it, and then we're going to move on.
Yeah. Yeah. There's something in simplicity.
Definitely.
Keep it simple. I love it. Keep it simple. Yeah.
So you mentioned a more advanced practice. Was that the gauche practice that you moved towards?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So there's 84 asanas, the Ghosh
Hmm.
lineage, and it's Vishnu Ghosh is where we extracted the 26 postures and two breathing exercises for the Bikram sequence
Hmm.
from the Ghosh lineage.
Yeah.
And so 84 of the postures would be practiced plus Kapalbhati and pranayama, but they were just a little different. And
Mm.
then there was some flowing that you didn't step back together and yeah, so that you weren't there for 3 hours, you were just there for 2 hours.
Right. It's a hell of a commitment, and it's a hell of a practice.
Yeah.
I've only done the Ghost practice twice. They offer it at a couple studios in our area, just on weekends. It's more of a special kind of class, and rightfully so. Like it takes a special human being to be able to do some of those poses, or just to be able to open
Or just
yourself
the,
up to the opportunity to do the poses.
yeah, even if you sat there, took up space and sweat your, you know what, everything off
Yeah.
and out, you could still gain by watching, observing. I mean, I think, and I still teach my kids this, you have to submerge yourself with people that are a little bit better at the sport than you, or the game at you and then that way you can see and watch and soak it up, and
Yeah.
then you be that person and you teach the next person, and when you can teach it, you know your shit, right?
Love that.
So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I remember the
yeah.
very first time, one of my first yoga classes. So when I first started taking yoga, I went to it for the physical benefits. I was out of shape, couldn't even see my toes, let alone know that I had toes there. But I remember one of the very first vinyasa classes that I took. We were going through sun A's, jump forward, halfway lift, fold, and then we were about to jump back to a chaturanga. We're going through a halfway lift, and I just happened to look down the line, and I saw this gentleman who now I know his name's David, but at the time I didn't know him. I saw him press into a handstand from his halfway lift, and I'm like, what the f is this? Like, this is the yoga? This is yoga. This is acrobatics
Right.
yoga. This is the same thing. I'm like, holy shit. Okay, sign me up. And it's just like you just said, like you don't know what you can do until you see somebody else do it. And it's like, okay, I'm not jealous of the fact you could do that. I'm amazed that this is part of the
Right.
practice that we could maybe
Right.
find. It's like, holy
Right.
shit. Like this just
You
opened up a
don't know what you
whole
don't know.
right. And
Exactly.
now I'm a
Your
42-year-old
box was
man.
here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And now I'm a
Yeah.
42-year-old man doing handstands and splits and shit like that I couldn't even do when I was a teenager.
There you
And it's
go.
like, man,
Oh, it's
I
so empowering.
love this. It's so beautiful to watch adults be children again in the most beautiful ways and embrace that childlike revere and that knowledge of like, I just did a cartwheel. Oh my god, I just did a
Yep.
cartwheel. Watching
Yeah.
humans awkwardly do cartwheels is one of my favorite pastimes now. Like whenever I do handstand inversion classes and we have to teach people how to fall, cartwheeling
Uh-huh.
is one of the best ways to fall out of a handstand.
Uh-huh.
Having adults cartwheel across the room who haven't
Oh,
cartwheeled in years is
it's
secretly
exhilarating,
one of
right?
my favorite things to watch.
It is. It is. I know. Because they giggle like a child
It
and
really
they
totally.
let loose like a child. And it's like, man, we wear so many restraints and hats and all these different patterns that we, absorb through our
Hmm.
life. And who the hell put those on us? And why
Right.
can't we peel them off again? Right.
Yep.
And just be fun. And
Hmm.
yeah, my kids will often say, Mom, if I post this, we might get like 78 likes because you did a flip on the trampoline. And I think that's the key to shit, And I'm like, I'm a cool mom and I can do a flip on the trampoline. I just want to be closer to my kids. That's all.
Exactly.
So whatever it takes.
Exactly.
So cute. So
Oh
cute.
my god. So where did competition yoga kind of sneak in? I mean, you seem like a competitive person in general. Was that just like a natural progression of your personality?
So let's see. It was, and it's funny. I do. It is my personality. I jump in probably a little too soon because I'm intrigued, and
Mm.
then I'm like, I could do this. I'm very much like pause, like a quarterback would rewind film and
Hmm.
rewatch the pass and rewatch the footwork and rewatch the hand pass, whatever. I mean, I watch stuff and I study it.
Mm.
So I thought, okay, I've watched so many people do their routines. I think I can do this.
Hmm.
And so I signed up, having just come back from teacher training. And I remember a lot of my senior teachers were like, well, that wasn't great, but we love you for trying and just getting out there and having to do it
Yeah.
because we never even competed. And I was like, what? You haven't? Why did I do it? And they were like, no, you should do it. And I'm like, oh man, it looks so cool. So intrigued was probably the first thing that caught my eye. because of the caliber of student that I watched.
Mm.
So some like yogis that have been doing this yoga maybe 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 more years longer than I have,
Yeah.
and watching them practice and putting in the time and watching their bodies change. I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. I'm doing it. It wasn't just like street fun. It was like they are investing lots of hard work, and I like the message they're putting out. So I'm gonna go for it. So I started and I sucked really bad for a long time. And then I figured it out. This is a numbers game. I don't know why it took me so damn long, but it holds weight according to per posture, which I knew, but according to different elements. Okay, so you have to have flexibility, balance, and strength required in all of the 3 minutes. And if you duplicated your flexibility because you're really flexible, but you're not strong, you get deducted. So you have to show all 3 in your 3-minute routine. And you can pick what you want of many, many postures, but you must show a forward compression of the spine, a backward compression of the spine, a twist of the spine, an elongation of the spine. And then they added then you had to pick 2 optionals, and that's what it was when I competed.
Okay. And that's all within 3 minutes.
Yes.
Wow.
So some of the postures that you love could be leg behind the head, but there's certain guidelines on how you need to get to leg behind the head. Okay. There's extra flare points if you could kick the leg up behind your head versus sitting down, which takes 21 seconds to put the leg behind the head, not touch the floor, and stand up, and then to dismount it, right? So you have to accumulate the time. You have to extract the time that it takes to hold it.
Yeah.
If you fall, you get 0. If you hold it for 5 seconds, you get all your points. If you hold it for half, you get half your points.
Okay.
If you touch the floor, it's a scratch, right? So it's very much like a gymnastics meet, but it's numbers in addition to all your stuff. So yes, you can show all your strengths, but you got to show your not strengths too, which I liked, right? So you couldn't just always flare out your good things, your strong things. You had to show your not weaknesses, but your not so strong things,
right,
and bring them to the surface instead of keep them under the mat, right? And that's what shifts us as a yogi. Yeah. So I think things that I thought were so intriguing and awesome looking at, where I was like, throw that paper out. That's not going to fit my body. Let me look at this one. That's a maybe, you know? And so as an adult, I was like a maybe list, a no list, get that out of here. Never happened in my lifetime list. And then yes, and then putting it in a routine. So you're like your own choreographer, your own coach, your own timer. And then you have to groom yourself.
Wow, the whole deal.
They have to be in a certain outfit. You can't have certain things. They don't want it to be flashy.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very modest.
Wow.
And yeah. And like any other sport, it has rules, and so you had to put that together for 3 minutes. So I just kept trying, and I loved it. And each year I just kind of bumped up on the board. And then my last year that I was really affiliated with the USA Yoga division or business or nonprofit, I should say, is speaking. I was able to come and speak to everyone that was a yogi considering maybe one day becoming a mom, and if they should consider yoga while pregnant, post-pregnancy. And it was a beautiful thing. I had way more men than I thought that were going to listen. Women that were pregnant listened. Women that were really young listened, which I thought was surprising. And then yogis that I guess I pioneered the way. I got pregnant right away. I taught yoga right after teacher training right away. I got pregnant again, and it was with multiple. So I kind of just kept going with the message.
Yeah.
Practice the yoga. When you get pregnant, do not take the yoga out if you love it, because your body will change and everything will look different in the mirror to you when pregnant. But if you take out your yoga, you also will not be happy because you have all this that's changed and that one thing you love that you took out yourself.
Right.
So keep it in.
Wow.
Let this change and embrace it. But keep the thing that you love and make room for baby. Don't change your life for a baby.
Yeah.
And I've always preached that message.
That's
make
beautiful.
room for the baby. And so some yogis are like, I I have doctor's orders, no yoga in the beginning. I'm
Yep.
like, absolutely. Listen to body. Yes, yes, yes. If you have any hair of doubt, then stop. But when you feel right and you're able to, don't expect your body to enter where you left off.
Right. Yes.
Don't expect for you to like kick that triangle right away. Like
Uh-huh.
start slow, start with like down dog and super easy and give yourself lots of space and time to get there.
Yep.
But if you feel 150% because you've been practicing this yoga for years, like I had,
Mm-hmm.
then stand on your both feet firmly, have conversations with your doctor, bring them in, record it, give them the knowledge, the information that's not in their textbooks,
Mm-hmm.
find a doctor that is, and then stay in communication. Check your temperature. You don't have to take out a thermometer. You know your body as a
Right.
yogi. And when you're pregnant, everything's very, hyper. So
Right.
you just step out a little sooner, come out of balancing stick. Don't do triangle. Don't do twist. You just omit things.
Mm-hmm.
But as a pregnant person, as a yogi who used to do all out things, you have to swallow this huge pill of, I have a human inside me anymore.
Right.
This is not just my practice.
Right.
I'm sharing my practice.
Oh, that's
I'm sharing
beautiful.
my practice because you can't, and it's not, I can't, I choose for you
Yeah.
not to do this posture anymore
Yeah.
because it's compression and it's a twist. I choose to come back to this posture and you can't wait to back bend, whatever, but it's evolutional and you come back to it like a roller coaster. And you know that one day you may back bend more because you wanted it more during your 10 months of pregnancy,
Right. And a lot of us with yoga, I'll use myself as an example. I'm so damn hardcore with yoga at times. Like I don't take time off even though I need to. So when I'm
Mhm.
forced to take time off, let's take the pandemic, first couple of weeks, we couldn't really practice because we were still figuring all this shit out. I
Yeah.
was lamenting my practice, like, oh my God, I can't practice, blah, blah. And then a couple of weeks went by and we as teachers were able to go into our respective studios to Zoom a class. And that was one of the
Yeah.
first times I was able to get back into a room. I was by myself. I turned the heat on. Nobody should know
You're like,
about that.
ah.
And I got into some inversions, got into some back bends, and it was deeper and stronger than I ever had because one, I gave myself the time to finally recover from some of the injuries I had. But to your point too, is like I had such a desire to be upside down and to look at the back of my ankles and like I want to do this so bad that when I finally got to it, it's like, there's your practice, just waiting there beautifully for you, coming back to it.
Right there.
Most
You're
definitely.
Like, this is exactly what I thought of in my mind.
Exactly.
This is how cool it was going to be. Yes.
Well,
I know that feeling.
I'm glad you brought up pregnancy yoga. There's three. If you don't mind me asking, just your opinion on these three things. There's generally three questions I get asked a lot from people that just found out they're pregnant or have just gotten back from a doctor's appointment saying, "This is what my doctor said."
Yeah.
And you touched on a couple of them. So the first one is no more practicing in a hot room. And so I'll give you the feedback I've gotten, and then I'll give you the answers I've gotten from both sides. So when a student comes to me and says, my doctor told me not to practice in a hot room anymore. Obviously, my first question to anybody, or my first statement to anybody, is, are you listening to your body? Listening to what your body says. If your body says, hell no, Adam, we're not going to do this, then listen to your body. Your body is very, very smart. But for the blanket, like nobody should ever do, right? So my doctor told me to stop doing yoga, hot yoga. So the feedback I've gotten from both doctors and people that have been in yoga for a while are, if you've never done yoga, hot yoga before, or you're away from your practice for a while, when you find out you're pregnant, it's not the right time to start back into a hot ass class, right?
I agree. Right.
Sure. Right. Because if your body's used to that heat, then what's growing inside you will become used to that heat as well. But if you just all of a sudden introduced a 120 degree room to a 97.6 degree body, shit's gonna go sideways.
Yeah,
right?
You're already feeling weird as it is, and super like out of body-ish. So
Definitely.
I agree with that one. Yeah.
Right. But yoga in general, like if you want to start a generalized yoga class, it doesn't not a hot class, please. Yes, move your body.
Yeah.
I was told to stay away from twists in the first trimester because that's the baby's anchoring, and so deep twist could damage that anchoring of some sort, which I'm like 100%. Separate the knees.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
Hand on the outside of the knee. You don't go to knee, elbow. You can go as
That's right.
gentle as you want to.
Exactly. Yep.
And
Yep.
then,
No twisting and no forward compression.
yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you're,
Anytime we're on our bellies, you're on hands and knees. Yeah. You're in like a quadruped or something like that.
yeah. And oh gosh, this one girl, Frankie, that has a studio in Florida,
Okay.
she practiced with me, and I know she was one that competed, and I know when she practiced on locus, full locus on her
Uh
arms,
huh.
she knew exactly where her baby was, and she was able to anchor away from it and like wedge a
Wow.
space off of the floor with her forearm.
Uh huh.
And so she didn't, because in her mind, she goes all the way up
Uh huh.
to scorpion. So she knew for a moment when her toes were tucked in locust, for a split moment until her legs came up and held in full, so she wanted her
Wow.
back to bend, and she wanted to get the legs up. And so for me, I told, at one point I had a yoga class of 9 pregnant women, which was like everyone drank the
Woo.
water clearly at the same time.
Wow.
I was one of them. And the 8 others that followed my lead were like, if you've done it with multiples, I'm going to follow your lead. I'm going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I led them, and everyone was so different, but everyone was able to speak and communicate things that maybe weren't able to be said the same way amongst
Mm.
spouse or partner or supporter or whomever, and then hear it and maybe say, gosh, I've been feeling that same way, thank you for saying that, and then next time share something, and the next person. And it was such a open environment of healing that I was like, this is my calling, this
Wow.
is what I love, it's my yoga that I believe in. I believe in continuing your yoga as pregnant women. You're
Mm-hmm.
not powerless. You are a machine, building a human. So continue with it. Oh my God,
Yeah.
it was the coolest thing.
God, it's
Never
beautiful.
ever did I expect to ever put that in my resume or whatever, to have that experience
Yeah.
from that many women, right? It's just like kind of like a
Wow.
one-off, right?
Yeah.
You don't ever have that many pregnant women. You have like 1 or 2 here or there.
Mm-hmm.
When I was pregnant practicing, I remember one gentleman that owned a studio was like, I'm gonna put you in the back. You're gonna have a sign,
I guess.
and it's gonna say pregnant baby on board, something like that. And I was like, don't you effing ever, right? I was like lashing out, and he was like, whoa, pregnant woman and I was like, okay, I'm gonna come back.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna walk to the water fountain, I'm gonna come back, and then we're gonna talk. Because I was like, excuse me, you just punished me. Like, this is a gift.
Right.
Don't punish me
Yeah.
with your words,
Uh-huh.
like that. And he was like, I don't think I'm gonna use the sign ever again.
Right.
I'm like, throw it away. Burn that shit.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Because it's insulting.
Yeah, most definitely.
That, he said, oh, I was just more worried that people were going to follow your lead. I'm like, why? People aren't going to follow a pregnant person's lead. They know
Right.
she's modifying.
Right. Yeah. Gosh. That's
So it's just it's so delicate, because you want to support the person, but you also want to say, like, listen to your body.
right.
And if your body's saying continue, and your doctor's saying that, like, what don't continue? The movement,
Right.
the 3 or 4 specific directions.
Mm-hmm.
If I stopped practicing, I probably would have gotten a headache multiple days,
Right.
because my body was so used to sweating.
Mm-hmm. That's the way we detox.
So I didn't stop that because I didn't want headaches,
Uh-huh.
in addition to stretched out everything else and the list.
Yep.
So hot
Yeah.
yoga stayed, and the 3, you have 6 doctors normally in your clinic, and like the one that gets not on golf duty delivers, and the rest are like, you got to see them.
Uh-huh.
And in the 6 that were in the clinic, 2 weren't on board, and they're like, I don't support you. I can't. I don't respect that choice of yours. And I'm like, well, I respect your decision,
Right.
but hear me out. This is going to stay in my life,
Mm-hmm.
because I love it and I need it. And if you take it out, I'm going to be a crazy person, or more crazy person. So yeah. And so they were like, okay. And then the other ones, they were just kind of following along, and they're like, all right, just keep reporting. My multiples doctor, when I delivered in Virginia, he saw 2 fetuses and up, so lots of triplets.
Okay.
And he's like, every time I come here, you've got a little Life magazine, you got crisscross applesauce sitting, you're not huffing and puffing and whining.
Uh-huh.
Can you go down the hall and spray all that stuff on the other pregnant women's? Because man, they're whining and crying, and I'm like, see, that's it.
Right. Well, I think that, that mentality goes a lot to the fact that you're thinking for yourself and listening to your bodies. A lot of times when we get told by a person in authority, in this case, it's a doctor, somebody in a white coat of some sort that says, now you're this, now you have to do this because you're that, right? And so basically that doctor is saying, you're now powerless as a human being because you have this thing growing inside you. If anything, the message should be, guess how powerful you are. There's a being growing inside you. That's how powerful of a human you are. Now, listen to your body and do what your body wants. If we can train ourselves to listen to our bodies and not just listen to the person telling us what we should and should not think, then a lot of that power, I think, would be intrinsic in us, and we would find the role models like yourself to look to in those moments of that strength that we're looking to find, because now we found somebody that's embodying that strength that we're trying to embody, and monkey see, monkey do. Hey, look, there's this beautiful human being right in front of me that's embodying their power. I'm going to embody my power. Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
And if, and that's that mentality. Like, don't just take what that person said as gospel. Like, figure it out for yourself. Is that what really sits with you?
Yeah. Make it yours.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that to your point with, self-empowerment and listening to your body, for some reason, many years, that was always, shh, let's not talk about how we feel.
Right.
It's just not okay, or it's weird, and so now the more that us yogis are sharing how we feel, and that's not right for me, I want to say yes, but my body's saying no, the more that we can use our words and our verbiage and our body language, we can be the light for those people that are always so always so negative and always so down. And yes, it's a really dark world, so we're just doing it one person at a time, maybe 1 week at a time, maybe one person 1 year at a time, but it's worth it.
It is. It is. And there's, I grew up in the Houston area down in Texas, so not too far from you guys. And, I'm not sure about Louisiana, but down in Texas, let's say mid 90s, early 90s area, there wasn't, it wasn't like people were coming out and purposefully bashing intuition, right? But intuition and intuitive thoughts were not something that was embraced as a mentality. But there was a lot of counter with that too, because, okay, so in my area, intuition was thought of as something like very, very feminine, right? Feminine thoughts, like when we have visions or hearing the clairs, if you will, right? That's a very feminine type thing. At least it's thought that way. And so a lot of that is squashed because men don't want to be feminine, right? But at the same time, we're told to trust our guts. Right. Trust your gut, which is one of those intuitive areas of our bodies, our third brain. Right. So we're told to trust our gut, but ignore everything else in our intuition. Right. So it's this confusing messages of like, listen to your body, but don't because it's feminine. Right. And we love women, but we don't because they're feminine and we want to embrace our masculinity. So there's like this jumbledness of just information that's been coming in that finally, when I was able to sit with it, and really start to unpack it of like, man, I've been ignoring my intuition. It's not something I have to build. It's just something I have to pay attention to. Like it's been talking to me this whole time. Like the twitches in my hands, the spine and the hair of my back of my neck, like all these things are all messages. I've just been shut up. I don't want to listen to you. I'm going to wait until somebody tells me what to do. You shush them.
Yeah, exactly. Or something drops. Like, I'm waiting from the sky.
Oh,
Is that for everyone else? Yeah. No, those are great signs. You know, I'm a sign person, and I know a lot of people think it's hokey pokey and all that stuff. But those are intuition signs and like little ringers, for us to, you don't hear that and see that? Yeah. Exactly. It's up to us to catch it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It's all there for us. So so how long did you spend in competition yoga altogether?
Okay, so let's see, 2008-ish, and then I finished. Reese was born in 2012. James was born in 2018. So probably the last year was 2017, 2016.
Okay.
I competed for Illinois. I think I placed first three times like three consecutive times for Illinois. And then that last time that I placed for Illinois, I went to nationals.
Hmm.
And then that was my last national, which is where, so every region gets a competition.
Okay.
And our Illinois region was 7 states. So it was like Kentucky, Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan, like all the states got together in Michigan, or I moved to different areas. Kentucky one year, and then the winners of your regional first and second place automatically advance to the national stage. And then the national stage are all the regions first and second place, or if one of them got hurt or injured, they're runner up.
Okay.
And they were invited also. So it was, everyone's top state performers. And that last one, I think I got like 10th or 12th or something like that for the nation or something like that. Yeah. So it was just kind of like continuously little bump up, each time. And it was fun. And then there's a 50-year-old competition and up. So I was like, maybe I'll quit until I'm 50 and then come back.
There you go.
So we'll see.
Oh yeah. We'll see. Right on. So did you use? Yeah. Hey, I love that it's. I have a friend that's doing the 50 and up CrossFit games, and and she is having the best time with it and loves it so much. And she's been competing, I guess, since she was in her mid 30s. So she didn't take a break. But man,
yeah,
she I think it's just the finding your niche and continuing on with that in whatever capacity. It's not like I want to be, and some people do, that's fine, but the gold medalist or the placing or whatever.
Yeah.
For a lot of us, it's just the activation of doing something, of applying ourselves to something. And reaching the end of that goal, not necessarily like I'm going to be a gold medalist, but I'm going to actually just finish this. I'm just going to see this through to the end.
I just wanted to try it the first time, put the routine together because I'm a creative person. It's satisfying to me. And like you said, it's the end. It's not the result of a medal or color or weight or a number. It's not associated for me for satisfaction as much as it is. I put this together for myself. I saw it through to fruition, and I met some awesome people along the way. And a few of them, I know it because I'm an energetic person. I planted a seed for them.
Yeah.
One of them is going to start yoga soon. They never thought their body could do it. Another one of them is getting back to yoga. They signed it off, right? And so however it works out, those were rings for me, for those 3 people to get back into it, to start it or continue it or whatever it may be. Or, maybe it was a spouse that never, ever, 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 ever wanted to come into the room because it was the spouse's thing, and then saw the other sex, the female, the male doing it. And they're like, you know what? I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
And it's going to make my relationship stronger because we have something to talk about.
Yes. Totally.
Or talk about later, or like the difficulty in the sport that we share. And some people can't share sports. I get it. Yeah. But I think if you can share that sport of passion of yoga, even if you're not in the same class together, lined up on the same row together, there's another bond that you hold tight, and you can discuss things a little bit when you're ready. Like my husband and I are on different levels of yoga, but he's really vinyasa based right now. And I'm loving watching him flow with breath and advance from blocked, heavy to not blocked, finding more balance. And so now we're able to discuss more yoga stuff, where it was more just like, what did I need to hear that he thought he needed to give to me to support me? Yeah. And now it's like, no, we're just talking. We're just talking yoga, Yeah. And so that's been really cool.
I love that.
But yeah, it's cool.
Did you, were you doing your online yoga offerings? Did that come after the competition yoga? Was that spurred by that, or was that just like an app?
Okay, so in 2000, when was James born? 18. I opened up a Bikram yoga, hot bar, and Pilates studio in Evanston near Northwestern University. and it was amazing. And then here comes COVID. And so in
Oh shit.
2020, we got information that health and fitness through university were not, and so that's where we started with 2020.
Yeah.
And then by March, we were shut down.
Right.
And we were like, should we open? Should we not open? We weren't open long enough for us to be like, for sure they'll come back.
Right.
We were only open for like 2 years almost.
Right.
And so that community that I built with a partner, ex-partner, we're not together anymore. Mm-hmm. She went and purchased another brick and mortar, and I decided to take those that weren't ready to go to a brick and mortar. So we kind of split it that way, and I took all the virtual people. And so I kept virtual and still happening now.
Yeah.
And so we meet outdoors, and we meet every now and then like social gigs and whatnot, but we meet 10 times a week virtually.
Oh, wow.
in classes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That backdrop actually looks like one of your backdrops for your classes. Is that it?
Yeah,
yeah,
it is.
Right on. Very cool.
Yeah. My Pilates classes and my yoga sculpt classes. I made up my own class this year, which is really fun. You know how sequencing is creative fun. It gives you this, like baking a cake. You're like, I know that it's going to be a yummy cake, but I just want to see the finish in the oven and take it out and be like, oh, I did it again. Yeah, right. Yay. I'm getting better at making a cake or planting a pot or whatever it may be. I don't know. There's always, different things that you like. I used to sew and I'm like, I'm not even going to freaking use this pillowcase, but I just want to finish it. Yep. It's like, I just want to finish the project because you want to see it through. It's like the satisfaction, of that. I lost my train of thought. I don't even know where I was going with the finishing of the project. It's just the satisfaction, I guess, more of anything, I know what it was, your creative sequencing. So, when your students non-verbally express interest, they support you in everything, but they show you non-verbally interest in areas where you're shocked or not shocked. Like, I didn't know as many people that I was teaching wanted to learn a headstand. It was on their bucket list. I don't know. It's just something about going upside down. And so I was like, okay, well, I freaking love teaching inversions. Why haven't we talked about this before?
Yeah.
That's not one of my favorite things. Let's do hand balancing. I got many. Where do we start? And then classes that I knew that they love. They love abs. So like, we can work abs every day with you. And I was like, why don't we just make a class called Arms, Abs, and Ass? No. So that's one of my favorite. So that's my favorite class. Every Thursday, people are like, "This is the most fun class. Like, we don't get super sweaty like Pilates. We can go work after, but man, our arms burn and our ass burns." I'm like, "Okay, well, cool. Let me make up another one." So I think my next one is going to be butts and guts.
All right. Yes, I love that.
So we'll incorporate some kind of butt music and
which there's a plethora
of. There's no shortage there.
Hell yeah.
And we'll do some glute work and ab work because that's what they love, and it's like they dictated it without asking for it, but more means give them more.
Definitely. And, good for you for listening to your community, like so many times, like I never owned a studio, but I've been managing studios and all that stuff for a while. And there's so many times we get in these think tanks about what we think that people want. Oh, we think that this will be great, this time frame or this style and blah, blah, blah. Have you ever asked the students and really dialed into what they're wanting? And like butts and guts classes, like, that's not a style of yoga, but you know what? If your community wants it and you're excited enough to teach it, then why the hell not? Like, that's amazing. Yeah. Like, I remember I know
that their core is going to be tight for yoga class, or I can engage with them in yoga class more about that class. That's another layer of engagement and rapport building and relationship building. And to me, that's everything, with building.
The community, and that's where it's at. I mean, we love our movement-based practices, but I mean, to be fair, I can go to 24-hour fitness and get a pretty decent yoga class, but am I going to get the community and the conversation afterwards like I would in a yoga studio after we've all just got our asses handed to us and we're just sweating our faces off? Or am
Right.
I just going to shower real quick and then hit the road
Go.
because I don't have that
I'm so
community?
glad you mentioned that. There are those studios, right? You can feel like a backpack. You're just there to like get
Hmm.
into your yoga gear, put your backpack on, and go,
Yep.
right? A to B. And then there's ones where you just sweat your faces off together, and you just felt like a snake who peeled off a few of their layers, and with those 3 or 4 layers were so much weight and disbelief, and you peeled it off, and
Right.
layers of people that put pattern hats on you, and you're like, I feel vulnerable, you feel vulnerable, but yet at the same time, we feel so good
Hmm.
about just shedding that,
Right. Yeah.
and that experience together builds each time you see that sweaty person again. So I love that
Hmm.
community building. Um, when you're in the sweaty chairs together next to each other and your makeup's running down the girl's face next to you, and you're like, that's life, this is like the real deal right here, and
Uh-huh.
that's the most genuine shit ever. The best.
Yes, most
The
definitely.
best. The
One
best.
of my favorite things right is practicing next to a friend, like whatever friend it is, but just practicing next to
Mm-hmm.
somebody that I know,
Yeah.
and being at like let's say 2/3 through the class, like we're in it, we're dying, we need to monitor our fatigue and take breaks when we need to, and like I'm just about to take a break, and I'm like, okay, after this flow, I'm gonna take a break, and then I look over and my buddy Camo is like still going hard, and I'm like, fuck, all right, well
Not going down now.
I'm doing it with you, bro. We're going at it together. It's like
Totally.
it's just
Yeah.
great to have that non-needed, and it's not even competition. It's just that
Yeah.
push. It's that
A
gentle little
little
push. It's
gentle
like, hey, you
push.
got some more in
Mm-hmm.
you. You're good. We got this.
Mm-hmm.
Keep
Mm-hmm.
on moving.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then there's those other times where you're like, oh, you're going down. I'm
yeah.
going down with you. You're like, thank God you're going down, because damn, I was
Uh-huh.
about to first, right?
Yep. Yep. We are
Yeah.
done, my friend.
Yeah.
It's almost
there's
like
there's moments of humility there too, where you're
there
like, what
is.
was I thinking? Like, God, oh yeah, oh
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know if this is the right term for it, but this is a term that pops into my head whenever I think about it. But that idea of just being in the lobby after a class and just after if you've given it all like we just said, it's almost like and again, this might not be the right term, but it's almost like a trauma bond, right? Like we've just gone through
Yeah,
this big experience together, right? This
yeah.
big, and it's traumatic to the body because we're working our body,
Mm-hmm.
we're expending energy, we're pushing our body to a limit. It might not be like negative trauma for per se, but there's
Right.
like traumatic things happening. But like you give everything you've gotten, and you're doing it with the people
Yeah,
next to you, and then after you're done, it's just like everything is gone. That vulnerability, like you said, is there, and it allows that openness to just be there, and allows that
exactly.
like that. Hey, you want to talk about life for a little bit? Like just hey, my
It's
mom's got cancer.
space.
Yeah, can I talk
Yeah,
to you about that for a little bit? And it's just like
yeah,
it opens us up to that place where we might not just tap our neighbor on the shoulder and say, hey, how are you today? But now
right.
that we're all in this together and I can't say
Mm-hmm.
anything but maybe just like tilt my head over to you and look, like we share a glance and there's a
Yeah,
million words said in
yeah.
that glance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yes, that's exactly it. It is. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's hard to describe that to people that haven't taken class together, or maybe are just going for a calisthenic workout. I
Right.
just need to go because my doctor says I need to work out 3 times a week, or I'm gonna go back on my blood pressure. Different conversation. But for
Yeah.
a true yogi, right? That's like, this is my lifestyle. I've committed to mat practice so many times every day because it makes my mind feel
Right.
sharper and I'm a better human. Yeah, just keeping humanity in the world is a good thing. And
Yes.
I think us yogis are on that mission for bringing humanity back.
Yeah. Well, and with that also, I mean, you're doing a lot of work with tweens right now, which is so God, thank you for doing that first off, before we even get into
That is
why or what you're
my
doing, but that's such a beautiful mission.
That's my goal.
Yeah.
That's my dharma right now. It's shifted. I think in the first 10, 15 years, 12 years of teaching, it was like, okay, words on the page, words came off the page. They're definitely in my brain. Okay, the words are definitely in my brain. Now let me look at humans' bodies. Now that I'm looking at their bodies, haha, now I can even look at their expressions on their face.
Hmm.
There's a long stage of teaching before you're watching everything or
Yes.
trying to watch everything,
Yeah.
or trying not to control everything, right? It's like, you don't need to say that. Say it next time. You don't need to
Mm-hmm.
say it all right now. Let them learn and fail to learn. There's so much in the first 10 years to teach.
Mm-hmm.
And then now I'm like, okay, I've so enjoyed my peers, my age, teaching all the way to 7-year-olds. I've enjoyed expressing to athletes, if you've been injured, let me share my knee things with you. If you've hurt your back, I've hurt my back. Let me help you, but now, as I'm raising with my husband, a set of twins that are going in the 7th grade
Mm.
and another daughter that's going in the 4th grade, and learning all of their friends, mom, dad's impressions that are on the children, not being from this area and adapting to what I would consider way rushed
Mm.
social allowance, things that maybe I would maybe hold off and talk about in 8th grade, and not allow my kids to enter certain things in 6th and 7th grade. And,
Mm-hmm.
so I realized that there's a fine line of being like the cool mom, the mom that's your friend, and then the mom that's like just hard love. No, I know what comes. I've done it. I made
Right.
that mistake. No.
Right.
So I want to be the yogi slash mentor for girls that are already gaining weight for no reason, already down on their self-image because someone told them you won't be a ballerina, you
Right.
can't be a gymnast,
Right.
you won't tumble, and you will never be a blah 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 blah. Those things set in your brain heavier than someone complimenting you or receiving an accolade or an accomplishment. They just scar you
Mm.
and weigh you down. And as a yogi, it's my dharma, I would love to continue to serve my community and their children now, or community members, daughters, and even sons, or whatever, any gender at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Not at this point, any gender that can allow themselves a little bit of time to undo whatever and whoever told them you can't, right? And
Right.
so if someone's never told them, well, maybe your mom just told you that because that's what they told her, and something like that. Or just simple conversation, mentorship, where we can use asana practice.
Mm-hmm.
We can use asana practice to become more secure and stable in our skin and in our body and in our mind. And then to be independent enough to let go and release of the things that are burdening us.
Yeah.
And I think that is huge, because someone told them they have to hold it or keep it, or that's the way it's going to be.
Right.
And it's not. It doesn't have to be the way it was. And they can change it. And I want the empowerment to be there for them, where they can grab their yoga cushion or grab a spot in the grass under a tree, or pull out something that they may hold, that they can, tangibly hold and say mantras with, or, something that they can go to, not as an escape, but as a way to filter that thought. I am not
Right.
my thought. That thought is a cloud. I'm watching the clouds go by,
Mm-hmm.
and there goes my thought. I'm unlatching, I'm releasing, these kind of, it's huge. It's small things, but it's huge for a tween or a teen who's never been in this world, in this kind of like environment. Instead of like, you can't, that's not you. And it's a lot, and it's heavy.
Yeah.
And it's causing a lot of heavy drugs and suicide and depression and lots of medication.
Yeah.
And as we know, once you're medicated, your dose may go up, and then your dose goes up. And then as an adult, you're like, oh, I've been taking it since I've been 12.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
And it's like, who told you that you needed it?
Mm-hmm.
Why were you told that? And weren't you re-diagnosed several years later? Like,
Right.
like, it's frustrating.
Yeah.
But instead of just sitting back, I thought, all right, well, let's see if yoga can help, if asana practice can help, or maybe just mentorship, getting together. My girls are in a gymnastics program, and their gym has a little small room where I can occupy with a mirror and a ballet bar.
Mm.
Certain levels of gymnastics, competitive gymnasts at a time. And in the beginning of the pandemic, I had like 55 gymnasts on at one time, and
Yeah.
we all did the 26 and 2 sequence together. And they were like, this is boring.
Yeah.
Please bring me something harder. And I was like, let's go, Ghost lineage. I need you
There
now,
you go.
So I had to pull out like the full things. And the next day I was like, geez, I wasn't ready for that.
Yeah, right.
I did not stretch those hips. But when the 14 and the 16-year-old are like, do that again, you're not going to let them down. You're
right.
like, one more time, more time, hip flexor.
Yeah, exactly. Work with me here. Oh man.
But they're impressionable. It's a pivotal time in their lives.
Yeah.
And if there was someone besides mom or dad or aunt, or even someone in their family bloodline that they could connect with.
Yeah.
I want to do this for the next 10 years so that it can build. And so what I'm thinking is, in my area, there's no cheer. There's like lots of cheering all over the place, but there's no cheer here.
Okay.
So I was thinking maybe my next brick and mortar will be adult yoga, but a side room and bring in the kids to the adult yoga. I don't think there's any reason we need to dumb it down, because they're freaking smart, and there's no reason to dumb down names of postures. Just give it to them.
Definitely.
And let them have it. And certain modifications maybe you wouldn't bring them into, but for the most part, like, let's not dumb down the yoga, but a smaller room where it could be those kids that were like, I want to learn to tumble. I want to learn how to cheer, and I want to learn how to do that because someone told me I can't, something like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's what I'm thinking. Something that's got like a trifecta where you can get dropped off and you're like, I'm gonna be here for a few hours.
Yeah. Yeah. We're doing some
Pick
work.
me up later. And then you walk away and you've got a little empowerment, you got a little sisterhood, a little camaraderie. And you're undoing, you're getting out of the way of people that have been putting weird stuff and labels on you.
Right. Yes. God. And we need to remove those labels from the young women, young men, young non-binary, we need to remove these stigmas of boys should act this way, girls should act this way. This is the standard for, coming up. And no, it's not. Like, there's so much now. Like, I greatly appreciate the sole fact that you're learning and you're teaching these children how to listen to their bodies, how to intuitively listen to your breath. Hey, we can decrease our anxiety by breathing deeper. We can upregulate our energy by breathing more shallow and quicker. We can sit and meditate and get rid of our depression, right? We can do all these things. We are our own healers. Like, one of the things that I can't remember who was talking about this. I think it's Zach Bush, but he was talking about how, like, we're not taught how to somatically up and down regulate our bodies, even though we know how to do that now. But at the age of like 7 and 8, we're taught who signed the Declaration of Independence and all this stuff that we don't really need to know. Like, yes, like science, math, please teach me that shit. But all like the history, like, let's find a place for the knowledge that we want to know, and then the knowledge that's going to keep us alive. And the knowledge that keeps us alive and healthy and safe is the body knowledge, the intrinsic empowerment, embodiment knowledge. But we have to seek that.
Where's that class?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think probably I think 32 was when I first started doing yoga. And when I finally realized that when I was and this is when I realized yoga was working for me. I had been practicing for maybe like a month, and I'm still very awkward with my practice, still not figuring anything out. But the breath was something I tied, that the Ujjayi breath was like, okay, I can get behind that. And I remember I was getting yelled at by a guest one time at work. Somebody's, food was messed up of some sort. I was the manager. And my ex reaction would have been, I get my energy gets upregulated with the guest energy, right? And so they're yelling at me, and so I start hyperventilating a little bit.
Yeah.
But at that point, this guest was talking to me about their bad experience, and I was able to keep a calm breath. And I was really focusing on that breath. And I'm like, holy shit, this is what they talk about, that yoga off the mat shit. It's like, oh, goddamn. And I was able to meet this guest in kind and take care of what they needed. Didn't get upset myself. They came back. They ended up being regular, blah, blah, blah. What? But it's like that, like, I was 32 years old before finally I realized that I could control my own anxiety with the breath that I have. you know?
Why couldn't we have known this as 11 and 12-year-olds when they're arguing about a girlfriend, boyfriend breakup,
Hmm.
your ugly face, your teeth braces, like all this. It's like, is that important?
Right.
Like, that we're growing through a phase, right? And everything's going to shift, and I'm going to be beautiful. I'm
Right.
going to be beautiful when this is all over.
Damn straight.
It's like, where's that class like home ec or something that would just stay with homeroom all the way through? And that homeroom is, this is wellness class. This
Right.
is meditation, mindful time. We're just going to sit. We're going to all listen to our inhale and our exhale, and we're going to listen to sounds that are in our environment. And you don't even have to call it anything that has a name that would be weird for kids or silly,
Right.
and then you just show up and it's there. Like right now, there's a few minutes of each, classroom day in one of my daughter's classes where they do that.
Yeah.
And it's amazing,
Wow.
but they're still giggling and they think it's silly.
Yeah.
Until if they just keep it a part of their life forever,
Right.
and then it's not silly. It's now, I need it.
Yes.
I need it. It's a part of my life. I can't start my day without it. And
Yep.
then you're like hooked, right? Like those are those minutes of nugget time, the golden nugget where you needed your set the day, set the tone.
And when we start that
I like
stuff
what
at
you said about.
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I like what you said about restaurant and like meeting at the table and shifting your energy. That's definitely a power. You have to like, harness that power and cultivate it and make it more and more and more strong, like stronger and stronger, right? Because it definitely doesn't come your first yoga class where you can be like, okay, I know that I'm going to be the yin and the yang to this. And if that one's already that high and I go in and I match it and I'm mirroring it and nothing's coming down, and it's like, all right, how am I going to be that mediator, balancer? I'm going to bring everybody back to like copacetic. And that's the yogi in us, but not everybody can do that. And I think that's our strength. And so with that being our craft that we love to hone and become stronger at, that's what our niche is, and I think mine is just that, and energy with girls or anybody that I'm working with. I just feel like I can mirror what I need to mirror and then back up when I need to back up. And then, I'll just have that place for them.
That's the sign of a great teacher.
Space.
Know when to add more knowledge, know when to back off the knowledge, know when to put pressure, to release pressure. It's like, that's a good teacher. Like you can just read all the books you want to, watch all the podcasts, but not get what you need to get because the teacher isn't there to regulate the knowledge that's coming in.
Yeah.
To look at you and know that you need more time on this one thought. You need some more time, not to just shove another book in your face just because you finished
right.
One,
You're not ready to hear it. Why shove it? Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And you mentioned something earlier too about the silliness, right? And a lot of these practices. We might feel silly doing them, right? Like bee's breath, for example. Like if you ever sat down and put your fingers over your nostrils and over your eyes and plugged your ears with your thumbs and then hummed like a maniac for 10 minutes, like it's fucking weird, right? I'm not going to lie.
Yeah,
a lot of the stuff, the breath techniques, the meditations, like it can seem weird, right?
Yeah.
But it's only weird because you're not used to doing it and not everybody's doing it. And so the example that I like to use, so we live up in Western Washington. So there's not snakes. There's not like a lot of poisonous things out here. We got bears and jaguars and shit. Like there's enough stuff to kill you. There's just not a lot of poisonous things. And so my kid and I, we were camping a couple of months ago, and we were walking around, the edge of the river, and a little water snake, just like a little 6-inch water snake, just kind of like jets out and crosses in front of her and just slithers off. Again, non-poisonous, but humans are afraid of snakes, right? We're just intrinsically afraid of snakes and spiders, like creepy crawly things.
Yeah.
And I was just maybe like 5 feet away from her. I didn't see exactly what happened, but I heard her feet scamper, and then I could feel the fear just like cripple her. And so I look over and she's like frozen and she's crying. I see the tears and I'm like, okay, what happened? She said, snake. Okay, cool. Let's get you over here away from where the snake was. And so but she's just like crippled with fear. She's like all super tense, like all the joints are engaged. And I'm like, okay, so what I want you to do is release your body and just shake your hands, right? Just shake your hands, shake your head. Let's just like kick your feet, do your things, right? And she looks at me like, you're a fucking maniac. And I'm like, no, okay, so here, let me explain, right? So you have a jaguar that's chasing a zebra, right? And that jaguar is chasing that zebra, and it's getting close, and all of a sudden that zebra gets away, right? The zebra jets off and it gets away. As soon as that zebra has a moment to be by itself, it shakes violently because it has all this anxious energy that it has inside of
Yeah.
it that it needs to disperse. And then
I
as
saw
soon
that
as it's done,
recently.
it just trots right off because it's
It,
fine.
I,
It's done its
it's so
job.
weird that you brought that up. I saw that on something recently. I had no idea that it did that, but that
Yeah.
trauma set in that body, that animal.
Exactly. And that's the way to get
Yeah.
rid of it, you know? And so I was telling
Shake
my
it
kids,
off.
shake it out, shake it out. And she's like looking around, make
Hmm.
sure nobody would notice. And I'm like, okay, I'll turn around, right? So don't, don't if you feel weird around me. But that's the thing. It's like some of these
Hmm.
practices might make us feel what we would consider like an idiot or foolish or something
Hmm.
like that. But you know what?
Until you do it regularly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if that foolishness allows you to release the negativity that's going to be in your body, I would rather be foolish than negative. I would rather look
I
like what
would
other
rather
people
be
would think would be an
foolish
idiot.
than being heavily medicated and
Exactly.
not know that that simple technique would work. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that when I think about stuff like that, it makes me think about like I've had friends and adults, and like I've, like say as a kid, there was this woman, Deborah, that we used to know, and one time I walked in, she was a friend of ours mom's. I walked into the house thinking the friend was there, and friend wasn't there. Deborah, the mom, was just in the living room, just dancing around all whimsically with her headbands and her
Hmm.
nobody incense and all this shit, just whimsically dancing around, and I'm like, what the fuck just happened to here? But you know what? That woman was ecstatic dancing and getting some of her shit out. And my teenage
She
brain
knew.
had no idea what was going on, but that 40-year-old woman was getting her shit right. Right? She
Yeah.
needed to get that energy out and move her body, and that's exactly what
Yeah.
she was doing. Unabashed, don't
Yeah.
care. This is what I'm doing.
Yeah. You have to dance it out like nobody's watching and shake it
Yes,
out. Absolutely.
make that shit happen. And
Yeah.
this, so
Yeah.
thank you for teaching our kids that, because the more that we can teach our kids how to
Yeah.
move with and live with our bodies and be proud of our bodies, and not something that
Hmm.
it's not a machine, it's this thing that's part of us. We're beings. We're all intrinsic together, right? And when we can understand
Hmm.
that, then we can be proud of the bodies and the understanding that we have, and not ashamed of
Absolutely.
what other people might think. There was when my kids were young. They're 13 and 18 now, but when they were younger, I went to a feminist class. One of my friends was going to UW and invited me to go to a feminist class. And I'm like, of course, yeah. I got two young daughters. I need to know what's going on in the world and make sure that my mentality is in a good place. And I was so distraught after leaving those classes, the couple classes I
Mm.
went to, just from, and I felt really good about the content being shared and the
Yeah.
openness, but I was distraught from the fact of like, I had no idea the level of pressure that was on these young women in general, but
Yeah.
especially these young women that are coming up that don't know any better, right?
Hmm.
And the point that the teacher made that really kind of took me was every single photograph that is mass marketed out there that's in a mass publication has been edited in some kind of way, right? So even the quote unquote most perfect human beings that we would find
Hmm.
perfect, the look,
Hmm.
the attitude, all that, they're still
Edited.
airbrushed. They're still
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
the message that we're not saying that is out there is that nobody will ever be perfect, no matter how hard you try.
Yeah.
But keep
Yeah.
trying, because we have
Yeah.
industries revolving around you trying to be the most perfect that you think you should be, even though you'll
Yeah.
never get there. What is that doing to the psyche of the
What is
world?
that? Yeah. What is that message? Is just cynical.
Yeah.
It's not going anywhere, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
You're
was
right.
just really,
You're
really
right.
horrible. And so like now, when my kids ask me these questions or when we have conversations, like I make sure to find a way to talk about them being the perfect thems that they are, and not,
Exactly.
yes, we can have idols that we look up to. I've had plenty of mentors and idols in my life that I wanted to idolize and be like, but
Yeah.
there's also like, it's an understanding of what you're trying to emulate in that person. Is it a look? Is it a feeling? Is an action? And really taking that time to dial into what you're actually seeing in that person that draws you to them, not just
Yeah.
trying to be like whoever it
Their
is.
fame and their, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Their financial situation. What is it? What's the message that they're promoting? Is that
yes,
really what you care for? Yeah, and finding the values at a younger age.
yeah. So do you? So
Yeah.
right now you're working mainly with girls, young girls, are you? And you said,
Well, let's see. Now that's I'm gonna make it my next 10-year, hopefully it'll kick off in like, a short amount of time, it'll ramp. But my goal is to find a brick and mortar, now that I feel like the area is starting to go back indoors and without masks around here. People are buying memberships again, and it was surprising how long people were still online ordering and having online deliveries and still not going out, but now I feel like it's the time where I feel good about investing it's like a restaurant. Your whole family's involved. Once you open a yoga studio, it's like, if someone doesn't show up, that's my ass. I got to teach. I'm sorry. You got to get picked up at school. Somebody's got to get you because I got to open
Yep.
So that's my goal, is to find a brick and mortar. And I have been looking, and I was really close to opening when we first started talking. I think I was about to open in Wilmette. And then my intuition told me, you're going to have a bunch of problems if you go with this place. So do not go with this place. So I stopped. And you would only know that having experience with starting a class on time and the issues of not starting it on time or ending it on time, and then having a time where the next class can come in. And that's where it all focused on. Nowhere to put your stuff. It was just, I knew it. The space itself was lovely, but those little small things, like just to create even harmony and flow, they weren't there. And I was like, all right, let me think. How can I get creative? I got to make a wall. I got to make a waiting room. This isn't happening. Like, who am I? I don't have a super cape. So the next place is going to have enough space for me to have a yoga room / another room. And it's going to be your daughter or son, whoever wants to perform yoga asana with us, and maybe have that cheer and trampolining and stuff like that. I have that little small room in the gymnastics space in Lake Forest right now, that if I wanted to just make it all gymnasts and yoga, I could, but I think I want to involve more than just yoga and gymnastics. So that's why I'm thinking I don't want to put my name and brand in the gym. I'd rather put my name and brand on a facility and know that the parents can come. And then also, you can also have it for your daughter, son, and know that it's an opportunity for them to heal, a place for them to heal. And I don't know that you have to call it a certain like yoga, or cheer, but something that's going to be a trifecta. Yeah, that's what I'm kind of wrapping my head around now. That's my focus. I went to a class yesterday and got to sweat with 30 other people, which I thought wasn't happening. And this place brought back some awesome memories for me. It was a place that I used to teach, and I got that yoga bug again. Like, I got to get this hot yoga room open. I got to get these bodies back in. I got to get them on the line.
Hell yeah. And it's good to have that inspiration again, just that remembrance of like, this is the reason why, this
that validation.
This is exactly it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, God,
it felt good.
Whatever you end up choosing to call it, it's going to be amazing. Just the mentality that you're going into it with, the attention to the embodiment of not only children but adults, and just like getting people used to being people. Like like we started off, like just removing all this baggage from us, these band-aids that we've been putting on our lives for however many years, and realizing that the true light and the true love is like, it's right here. We were born with that perfect amount.
Always had it.
Always had it. That's so great. That's beautiful.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you. It's been so fun. I feel like we should hug.
I know, right? Virtual hug, girl. Yeah. Well, I'm so thankful for you to take some time and chat with me about your journey, and I'm so happy to hear about what you're working towards and what you're currently working on. If there's ever anything that I can do to help you in your journey, whether it's coming back on or, obviously if I'm ever in the Chicago area, I'm gonna definitely look you up.
Yeah.
But
please,
yes.
We'll take class together.
Yeah,
that'd be wonderful. Yeah,
right when I'm about to quit, I'll look over and you're doing a handstand. I'm like, shit. All right, I'm still going. Well, Jamie, thank you again. I appreciate everything.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. Take care. Have a good rest of your day, Adam.
You too, love. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining Jamie and I. Please check out the show notes for any links, ways to get in contact with either of us. And please like, subscribe, and share the show. Obeisance and love. We'll see y'all next time.